What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Larissa, so if you don't know, now you know. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. If you're into this kind of video, give it a thumbs up. As you guys can see by the title, I'm doing a halfway through the month where I'm at with my reading. So I've got a couple books that I've finished so far. It's almost halfway through the month. I think we're the 10th today that I'm recording this. I think it's the 10th. I kind of wanted to give you guys an update where I'm at and what's coming next. Let's just get right into the video. Starting off, getting back into reading, the first book that I read this month was Traveling Light by Lynn Bernard. This was a pretty easy read, especially considering I hadn't read any books for years. So this was nice to get into and just have a story that kind of flowed. There was a little bit of a plot-driven kind of thing going on, and there was definitely some character growth. I think this was a good book for somebody who wants like an easy read, something that's quick to get into, and you get a little bit of everything, like a found friendship, a little bit of tragedy, a little bit of the past, so you kind of get a little mix of everything in this book, but this is kind of like a relaxing read. Next, I read the first book in the Darker Shade of Magic series. This is a trilogy. I loved this book. It was a little slower for me getting into, especially getting back into fantasy reading. So like the world building and trying to kind of differentiate the different Londons in this book. But overall, the writing was really nice, and I read this book in the course of 2.5 days. There's about 400 pages in this book. It was an easy book to get through once you kind of figure out how to differentiate the world building kind of thing. It was really nice, and there was a couple twists in here, especially towards the ending, which was really good. And this was my first book that I actually started tagging, and even so I only started halfway. I definitely want to get a new copy of this book as well as the other books in the trilogy. But that is the second book that I read this month, and that kind of just spiraled me into really wanting to stick with reading because it was enjoyable. I picked up a book that was, not the book itself was highly suggested, but the author was highly suggested, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And I'm so glad. If you follow me on Instagram, I usually post what books that I'm currently reading. So if you're not following me, I would go follow me. This book was beautiful. It was a page turner. It was a story you wanted to follow. It was characters you wanted to love, characters you wanted to hate. It was like going into your mind and figuring out why you put yourself in certain situations, and it was great. Relationship, trigger warnings though, there is domestic violence, there's sexual assault, there's talks of death, so if that's the kind of thing that you don't like to read, I would stay away from this one. But overall, it was a really great book. Anyways, this was great. I tagged literally through the whole entire book. It was descriptive. So yeah, this was really great. If you haven't read it, I suggest it. The next book that I got solely because TikTok and various people on YouTube said this was a really great book. Now, I am 98% done. I think I've got 50 pages left. It's gonna be done today because I want to start reading another book before my Colleen Hoover books come in. So this book is going to be done today, and I specifically only got it because of the high reviews, and considering there's only 50 pages left, unless there is this huge plot twist and, you know, story that just blows me out of the water, this book was sort of basic to me. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This, if you guys watched my last video, The Haul, I big upped this book. I talked it up because everybody was talking it up, and that's the reason why I got this. Otherwise I would have spent my change somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, Taylor. But this book was alright. It was alright, and I still got 50 pages to go, so maybe that will change my mind. I just feel like if you're 90% of the way through the book and it's kind of just basic, no spoilers, every one of the husbands, I wasn't surprised that she married them. You know what I'm saying? It's none of it was shocking to me. Nothing really stood out to me. Either way, I'm excited to finish this and move on to the next book. So those are the 4 books that I have read so far this month. I'm really glad that I'm sticking to this. I don't know, I've got this like reading energy and I'm glad that I still have it, and I'm just ready to keep reading. The next book that I am going to jump into is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I'm actually really excited to get into it and see what it seems like, a kind of mystery suspense kind of thing, but with some romance and maybe some comedy. If you haven't watched my last video where I did a book haul, I picked up this book and I read about it, but I didn't end up getting it in that haul because I ended up getting It Ends With Us. But then I was like, as I'm going through It Ends With Us, I kept thinking about like the plot of this book and what happens and what the secret is. So I was like, I'm just gonna get it. So I got it, and this is the next book I'm going to be reading. I specifically chose this one because I was interested in it and because this is one of the shorter books that I have out of that haul. And like I said, I want to get into something that's short enough that I can read the whole book in time for me to get to my Colleen Hoover books that are on the way. So that is what's going on with me halfway through the month. And yeah, I want to know down below what kind of books you guys are reading, because that does give me like an insight on what I should read next, what might be interesting. So I'm going to keep doing that, and I will see you guys in the next video.